My parents bailed on my wedding because I tied the knot before their golden child did. Now their perfect little family image. It's starting to fall apart. So, I'm a 32-year-old woman, and I got married 8 months ago after being with my husband for 4 years. Practically everyone we cared about showed up, except for my sister, Malene, who's 30, and our parents. To be honest, I was more surprised by my parents not showing up than Malene. She and I have never really clicked, so her skipping it wasn't shocking. But in hindsight, considering everything between us, I probably should have seen it coming. Let me give you a little context to help this all make sense. I cannot say it was entirely my parents' fault that Malene was always their favorite. She just had a way of shining in everything she did. From the time she could walk, she knew how to steal the spotlight. She dominated spelling bees, won every science fair, nailed talent shows, you name it. In high school, she checked all the boxes: class president, prom queen, valedictorian. She was tall, slim, and easy on the eyes, which led her into modeling while still in college. I remember when she booked her first real modeling gig during her second year, my parents went all out. They threw this over-the-top party, invited every relative and friend, and made a huge deal out of it. They even got her professional headshot framed and hung it right over the fireplace, where it still sits like a shrine. That same year, I graduated with a degree in computer science. My parents barely looked up from their phones when I told them. I got a quick, good job, then they went back to planning Malene's next photo shoot. Fast forward a bit, Malene lands a job at a top-tier company, climbs the ladder like a pro, and now she's got a corner office, a shiny company car, and a senior executive title. And she's only 30. As for me, I work as a mid-level software developer at a decent tech firm. It's solid work, I enjoy it, and I make good money, but let's just say it is not exactly brag-worthy material for holiday dinners. Plus, I have a stockier build and I'm shorter than my sister, which my mom never let me forget. Growing up, she used to make these snide comments about how I looked. She enrolled me in workout programs I never wanted, put me on diet after diet, and always compared me to Malene. She'd say things like, "Malene never struggles with her weight," or "if you just tried a little harder, you could look like her." Even though I learned to tune out those comments by the time I hit high school, they definitely left their mark. Eventually, I accepted that no matter what I did, my parents would never celebrate my achievements the way they did Malene's. I spent years trying to win their approval, signed up for all the classes they suggested, joined every club they pushed, even dabbled in modeling for a hot second. It was a disaster, and Malene still loves to bring it up every chance she gets. But no matter how hard I tried, it was never good enough. I was always the runner-up, the backup daughter, while they were head over heels for everything Malene did. Somewhere in my mid-20s, I decided I was done trying. I stopped chasing their praise and started focusing on building a life that felt good to me. I worked my way up in my own career, made real friendships with people who liked me for who I am, and honestly, life started getting better. Knowing how much my parents obsess over their image, I kept things surface level with them to avoid drama. At family Christmases or the occasional forced get-together, I would smile, nod, and sit quietly while they went on and on about Malene's latest big job, her new boyfriend, or some exotic vacation she just got back from. They never noticed I had checked out emotionally. Why would they? They had Malene to gush over. So it all changed for me at a tech conference. I met my husband there through a mutual friend. Right away, he actually saw me, really saw me, not like my family ever did. He liked my dry humor, the way I could hold my own in a conversation about code, and yes, even the way I looked. From the very beginning, he appreciated me exactly as I was. Not once did he ever suggest I should change or compare me to anyone else. After 4 amazing years together, he proposed. It was just the two of us, sitting at home in comfy clothes, eating takeout with our favorite show playing in the background. It was perfect in every way that mattered. Naturally, I told my parents I was engaged. That was last year. I should have known something was off right then. Their reaction? Complete silence. My mom broke it first. Instead of congratulating me, she asked if I was sure I wanted to rush into marriage and casually suggested that I should maybe work on getting in better shape before the big day. My dad hardly said a word. At our engagement party, my husband picked up on their weird behavior, but I was too anxious and overwhelmed to see it clearly at the time. They spent most of the night huddled together, whispering over my mom's phone in the corner. Later, my husband told me he overheard part of their conversation with Malene. Apparently, she was crying, and he caught bits and pieces, something about how this was not the plan, and how they never expected Rebecca to be the one to get married first. Planning the wedding came with its bumps. My mom, who had spent years curating Pinterest boards for Malene's future wedding, even though Malene was not engaged, did not show the slightest interest in helping me choose a venue or a dress. When I finally picked out my dress, a simple but elegant A-line gown that made me feel truly beautiful, my mom's only comment was that it was practical and flattered my shape. Not exactly the emotional moment I had hoped for. Luckily, my future mother-in-law stepped in like the mom I needed. She treated me like the daughter she never had, and helped with almost everything. My husband and I double-checked the guest list multiple times, making sure no one was left out. We sent both email and printed invitations, and I know for a fact that my parents got theirs. I saw the read receipt. When I noticed they never RSVP'd, I followed up. I called, texted, even emailed. Most of the time, I got no response. And when they did reply, it was vague, things like "we've been so busy," or "we need to check our calendar." I was too deep in wedding prep to waste my energy worrying. My in-laws were beyond amazing. They helped with everything, from arranging the seating chart to picking out flowers. My husband's sister even threw me a beautiful bridal shower. No one said a word about the fact that my own family didn't show up. Still, their absence stung. The wedding day itself was beautiful. We had a sweet morning ceremony in a garden, followed by a relaxed afternoon reception. Everyone kept saying how happy and in love we looked, and they were right. But there were a few moments that hit me hard. Like when I looked at the front row and saw those empty seats. Or when the father-daughter dance came and went and I sat it out. After the honeymoon, I finally decided to confront them. I called, and after a few tries I got through. They said they were deeply hurt. My mom insisted they never received a formal invitation. Then she went off, claiming I was careless, saying she had always dreamed of helping plan her daughter's weddings. She just could not understand why I would exclude them from such a huge milestone in my life. I was honestly confused, because I knew for certain we had sent both physical and electronic invitations to my parents. During the call, I even pulled up our records to double-check, and yep, everything had gone out just as planned. The physical delivery had even been confirmed. Still, I did not call them out for trying to gaslight me. Instead, I apologized for the mix-up and ended the call. Later, my husband and I talked more about it. He gently pointed out a few red flags he had noticed along the way, how they reacted with shock, not joy, when we first shared the news of our engagement. How they constantly found excuses to avoid helping with any part of the wedding. He had kept it to himself at the time, not wanting to stress me out further, but looking back, it was all painfully clear. It all came down to this, the idea that I, the less successful daughter, was tying the knot before their golden child, Malene, was something they just could not handle. Their actions confirmed what I had tried not to believe for years: no matter what I did, I would never be enough in their eyes, not compared to her. What stung the most was realizing that even my wedding, a day meant to celebrate love and new beginnings, became just another stage for them to defend their picture-perfect family narrative, with Malene at the center of it. Apparently, Malene got engaged a few weeks ago to someone she has been dating for just about a year. I learned this through relatives, because I am not part of the family group chats anymore. From what I hear, my parents are going all out with the planning, fancy venues, designer dresses, and private bridal fittings. All the bonding moments I was never offered. What's surprising is that a lot of our extended family are now choosing not to attend Malene's engagement party, or her wedding. Word has clearly gotten around about what happened at mine. When family members ask why my parents skipped my wedding, I just tell them the truth: they could not stand the fact that I got married before their favorite daughter. I lay it out plainly, no drama, no trying to get pity. Just the facts. A few days ago, my parents reached out again, this time accusing me of trying to sabotage Maline's big day. They said the relatives they spoke to were making up excuses to skip her wedding events. My cousin, who heard it directly from Maline, told her people were feeling uncomfortable about attending because of how my parents treated me. Now they say I am jealous of Maline's extravagant wedding, and am spreading lies to make them look bad. But the thing is, I have only been honest. If the truth casts them in an unflattering light, maybe they should take a good look at their behavior instead of blaming me for the fallout. Things are shifting, and honestly, it is getting harder to pretend like I still have any kind of relationship with them. The way they handled my wedding made something crystal clear: I will never be what they want. I will never measure up in their eyes, and frankly, that is no longer the hardest part to accept. The real pain is realizing that I never truly had the loving, supportive parents I always wished for. Right now, I am focusing on building a life with someone who loves me exactly as I am. After reading all your kind words and encouragement, I decided to do something I'd never dared before. I asked to speak with my parents in person. Their recent texts about our family legacy being tarnished had pushed me past the point of silence. It was time to put it all out there. The moment the conversation started, they jumped straight to accusations. I was jealous of Maline, they said. I had orchestrated all of this just to sabotage her big moment. But this time, I didn't argue. I didn't try to defend myself. Instead, I did something they didn't expect. I said, "You're right. Yes, I'm jealous. Not of her job, or her looks, or even her achievements. I'm jealous of the love, the support, the care you've always showered her with, the kind I never got, not once, without strings." The line went silent. Then my mother insisted I was exaggerating, claiming they had always treated us equally. And something in me cracked. All the feelings I had swallowed for years poured out. I reminded them of the birthdays overshadowed by Maline's accomplishments. The high school graduation dinner that was cancelled because Maline had a modeling callback. How my prom dress was half the price of her shoes, and my college textbooks didn't even come close to the budget you had for her wardrobe. My father tried to interrupt, said I was being dramatic. But I kept going. I told them how they'd planned Maline's hypothetical wedding for years, yet treated mine like an inconvenience. How I stood alone picking a dress while my mother-in-law helped with everything, because my own mom didn't show up. Their reaction? Defensiveness. They flipped it back on me. "Why didn't you ever say anything if you felt that way?" my mother asked, as if I hadn't been trying to speak their language for decades. My father said I was being spiteful by talking about this with the rest of the family. That I was ruining Maline's wedding. And then my mother said the one thing that made everything clear. "We never thought you'd stoop so low as to ruin your sister's day out of spite. But we always knew you were insecure about her. That's not how we raised you." And that's when it hit me. They weren't even listening. They couldn't. They truly believed this wasn't about their actions, it was about me being broken. About Maline being hurt. Even now, after skipping my wedding, they were more worried about preserving her happiness than facing what they'd done to me. But this time, I didn't back down. I didn't soften my words or try to keep the peace. I looked them in the eye and said, "You're right about one more thing, you did raise me. You raised me to believe I'd never be enough. That Maline would always matter more. That keeping up appearances was more important than my feelings. And you know what else? You also taught me that I deserve better, even if you didn't mean to." There was a long pause. Then my father, voice cold and measured, replied, "Maybe we should stop pretending we're good parents. You've clearly already made up your mind, and it sounds like you enjoy watching us suffer. Since we're family," my father said, "we thought you'd help resolve this, not make it worse." And then my mother delivered the final blow. "Maybe you just couldn't stand not being the center of attention. We always tried to treat you both fairly, Rebecca. It's not our fault you chose to play the victim." I didn't argue. What would have been the point? Their words, that smug refusal to take any responsibility, proved everything I had just said. So I said nothing. Just hung up. And you know what? I felt relieved. Yes, I cried. But it wasn't the frantic, heartbroken sobbing I remembered from when I was a kid. These were different. They were tears of release. Of clarity. Of finally letting go. For the first time, I had spoken without censoring myself. Without begging for understanding or softening my truth. Later, I was sitting out back, watching the sunset, when my husband came and sat beside me. He didn't say a word, just took my hand. After a while, I whispered, "They're never going to change, are they?" "No," he said softly, squeezing my hand, "but you have. And that's what matters." And he was right. The girl who once twisted herself into knots for her parents' approval no longer exists. And the woman who came out of that last conversation, she doesn't need their validation anymore. It still hurts, sure. Letting go of the hope that your parents might one day become the people you needed. That cuts deep. But it hurts less than clinging to an illusion. For once, I genuinely don't care about Maline's wedding. Or what gossip might follow. I've said my truth. If the consequences sting, they'll have to sit with that. It's strange, like I've dropped a backpack I didn't know I was carrying. It's not the happy ending I once hoped for, but maybe it's the right one. The freedom to stop chasing a kind of love that should have been mine without effort. Second update. 3 days after that conversation, the unexpected happened. Maline decided to wade into the mess, and well, it didn't go how she thought it would. She texted me a long, carefully worded message. And it reeked of that sanctimonious tone she'd perfected over the years. "What you said to Mom and Dad was completely inappropriate. They gave us everything. You don't get to blame them for being bad parents just because you're insecure about your own choices." She went on, the usual mix of smug moralizing and subtle digs. "I get that your wedding didn't go as planned, but that doesn't give you the right to sabotage mine. Some of us have worked very hard to meet certain standards. Not everything has to be a competition, Rebecca." I didn't respond. I've learned that replying to Maline just gives her more fuel. So I did something I should have done a long time ago. I blocked her number. But Maline. She's not one to be ignored. A few hours later, my husband called me at work, gasping with laughter. Apparently, since she couldn't reach me, Maline somehow tracked down his personal number, probably through a mutual contact, and sent him a series of dramatic texts. She outlined, in great detail, every reason our relationship as sisters had been strained. She even started the message with a tone so professional it read like a press release. "As Rebecca's sister and someone who cares deeply about our family's well-being," the message began, "I feel compelled to reach out." At first it sounded diplomatic, measured. But it didn't take long for her true intentions to surface. She told my husband, that as the new man in my life, it was his responsibility to help me behave more appropriately. Yes. Really. The messages quickly became more and more condescending. "Family dynamics are complex," she wrote, as if she were addressing a confused child rather than a grown man with an MBA and a successful career. "Rebecca's sensitivity might cloud her ability to understand the bigger picture. Perhaps you could help her see reason, before she does permanent damage to family relationships." And then came the piece de resistance. She tried to play on what she assumed were his social climbing ambitions. "Surely you understand," she wrote, "that maintaining good relationships with successful family members like myself could be beneficial for your future. Rebecca's behavior is only hurting her own prospects, and by extension, yours." That's when my husband, who has always been able to see through Maline like a freshly washed window, burst out laughing. "She really doesn't know me at all, does she?" he said, shaking his head. When I got home, we went through the messages together. But instead of tears or frustration, I laughed. We laughed. Together. Because there's something oddly liberating about watching someone's manipulative tactics fall completely flat, especially when they're aimed at someone entirely immune to them. And that's when it clicked for me. Maline, for all her outward confidence and curated success, is still that insecure teenager who needs to tear others down to feel like she matters. She thought she could sway my marriage the way she used to sway my friendships in high school. When she couldn't attack me directly, she'd whisper in my friends' ears. Subtle little jabs. Poison in a pretty bottle. Same tactics. Just more expensive stationery. But it won't work anymore. 10 years ago, her message would have broken me. 5 years ago, it would have at least ruined my week. Today? Today it's background noise. I'm not playing the game anymore. And my husband's reply. Perfect. He didn't get sucked into her drama. He didn't scold or defend. He just wrote. Thank you for your concern about Rebecca's well-being. As her husband, my focus is on supporting her happiness, not managing her behavior. I think it's best you direct any future concerns to her directly. Have a nice day. That was it. Short. Respectful. Impenetrable. Malene, not getting the response she'd hoped for, sent one last message. I see she's poisoned you against the family too. That was Malene's final text to my husband. Don't say I didn't try to help when this all blows up in your faces. Oh, Malene. Your version of help is just another word for control. Ironically, her little crusade to restore order only pushed me further away and deeper into peace. Nothing about her messages surprised me. They were just proof that she hasn't changed. She's still the self-appointed narrator of our family's fairy tale. Still desperate to cast herself as the protagonist and anyone else as either an extra or a villain. But the best part? Her performance flopped. Spectacularly. Her manipulation didn't drive a wedge between me and my husband, it brought us closer. Instead of sulking, we laughed. We poured wine, made dinner, and planned a weekend trip like two people living their actual lives, not pretending to live someone else's. And that's when it hit me. Family isn't who writes the best narrative. It's who stands beside you when someone tries to write over your truth. It's not about keeping up appearances or playing along with the script. It's about love, honesty, and the kind of loyalty that doesn't need to be rehearsed. So no, I won't be attending the wedding. Not because I'm bitter. Because I'm finally done auditioning for a role I never wanted in a story I didn't write. And speaking of stories, apparently my parents have started writing one of their own. It turns out, they've been making the rounds, calling aunts, uncles, cousins, spinning a tragic little yarn about how I cruelly excluded them from my wedding and am now spreading hateful lies out of pure jealousy. Their latest theory. That I intentionally sent the wedding invitation to their old email address and their former physical address, the ones they've miraculously still used for the past 30 years. Charming, really. Unfortunately for them, our relatives aren't buying it. In fact, some of them have started sharing their own stories, memories of my parents playing favorites over the years, especially when it came to Malene. One aunt even recalled how, at another cousin's wedding, my mother tried to shift all attention to Malene, changing the subject, staging dramatic photos, making it all about her. What's truly rewarding, though, is how the tide has turned. Key family members, some who were even in the wedding party, have pulled out. Quietly but decisively. Apparently, without those ties, the exclusive venue they'd managed to book is suddenly less available. I guess when you build a foundation on favoritism and fiction, don't be surprised when it crumbles. Even the luxury garment business of a family friend unexpectedly had scheduling conflicts. At a recent family gathering, things reached a breaking point. Someone, probably not knowing what was going on, innocently asked about my wedding pictures. My mother, predictably, went into a jealous, defensive tirade. She claimed that I had changed after getting married, and that I was trying to destroy the family. Naturally, her outburst backfired. It left some relatives stunned, especially those who didn't know the full story. They saw her for who she really is. It's painfully ironic, though. My parents' frantic efforts to maintain their ideal family facade are the exact reason it's crumbling. Every time they try to justify their absence from my wedding, they reveal even more about their true nature. Their attempts to paint me as the villain only serve to expose their deception. More and more, family members are picking sides after having remained neutral for years. The most surprising development came when my father's brother, who'd always kept his distance to keep the peace, finally spoke up. He apologized for not stepping in sooner, for not recognizing the way I'd been treated. He's even decided not to attend any of Maline's wedding events. That was a big shift for him, and it spoke volumes to me. I don't feel the need to explain myself. The truth is doing all the work. Maline, my parents, their attempts to control the narrative, all of it is unraveling. With each new story they tell, they only expose themselves more. Years of staying silent, just trying to keep the peace, were really just a way of enabling their behavior. As my husband so aptly put it, they built this facade of the ideal family over the years, but it was all based on emotional manipulation and favoritism. Eventually, it was going to fall apart. And it has. Personally, I'm doing better than ever. I don't have to worry about winning my parents' approval anymore. The stress of walking on eggshells around Maline has evaporated. For the first time in my life, I'm not concerned about preserving their ideal family image. Sometimes, the best form of retaliation isn't an action, it's simply allowing the truth to speak for itself. I'm beyond grateful to the Reddit community for the encouragement and support. I never thought I'd find such strength in the words of strangers, but here we are. Sometimes, true family support can come from places you least expect.